In this example, we're going to use the greatest common factor of another example we looked at in the last section to actually factor that algebraic expression. So our algebraic expression was 9x to the fourth times y minus 14x to the sixth. And remember, our greatest common factor, or our GCF, that we found in that example earlier was x to the fourth. Okay? Now remember, factoring is just dividing. So 9x to the fourth times y minus 14x to the sixth. That entire thing divided by x to the fourth gives us what? Well, remember, when we divide like this, we want to split it up into separate fractions. So 9x to the fourth y over x to the fourth minus, and this minus sign here comes from this minus sign right here. And remember, in the earlier example, when we found the greatest common factor, we said we don't have to worry about the minus sign yet, but it will come into play later. And this right here now is where we have to be careful of the minus sign. So minus sign here, minus sign here. So minus 14x to the sixth divided by x to the fourth. Now, what's happening here? Well, x to the fourth cancels with x to the fourth perfectly, and all that's left is 9y. That's great. X to the fourth cancels with x to the sixth to give us x squared left over. Okay, so what we have left over then is just 9y minus 14x squared. So the way we write that as something that's factored is 9x to the fourth times y minus 14x to the sixth equals this denominator here, x to the fourth, our greatest common factor, times what's left over, 9y minus 14x squared. Okay, so remember, when we factor, not just factoring with the greatest common factor, but factoring in general is just dividing. So here, when we factor with the greatest common factor, we're pulling the greatest common factor out. So when we pull x to the fourth out of 9x to the fourth y, when we divide that out, what's left? 9y. If we take 14x to the sixth and pull out or divide an x to the fourth, what's left? Just a 14x squared. Okay, so that's another example of factoring with the greatest common factor.